What's up, everybody? You're on the Bulletproof Mafia, and I'm Michael Munsterman with my good friend Ted Johnson.
How's it going?
Today's episode, Power Executed.
I was raised to be solid. Real at every angle, I ain't worried about the audit. Never see the hate, tunnel vision on the profit. Boss moves if I want it, best believe I cops it. Team so tough, moving silence like the mafia. Trying to get the foreign whip, probably name it Claudia. Wife rockin' Tiffany, that's just another day to me. I be living lavish, that's why these haters be hating me. Stronger than I ever been, never break, never been. God first, family second, money is like next to kin. So if you come in for me, pull the trigger, guard and shoot. Kevlar mindset, lifestyle bulletproof. Bulletproof. Built tougher than your average, ultimate hustler. I'm the total package, bulletproof. I know you see me in your scope. I'm the captain of the ship, you just a sailor with a boat. Bulletproof. Built tougher than your average, ultimate hustler. I'm the total package, bulletproof. I know you see me in your scope. I'm the captain of the ship, you just a sailor with a boat.
So Power Executed. Ted is one of my very best friends in the entire world, and I wanted him on the podcast. I've been threatening to get him on the podcast for a long time. I don't know. We've talked about it 100 times, probably.
A million times, yes.
Yeah. And Ted and I have a personal relationship. We do business together on a lot of different levels. And so inside of this evolution of our friendship, I've watched him grow as an entrepreneur. I've watched you scale to some really cool shit.
Yes, sir.
And it's been a lot of fun. I'm super selective about who I have on the podcast. I don't bring guests on because they have great big followings or because I'm trying to get penetration in the marketplace. I bring people on who I either share like an extreme point of view with, or who I have an entirely polar point of view with.
Right.
In our case, I think we have both.
Right.
We have lots of things we agree on a lot, and then we have lots of things that we entirely disagree on.
That's a very true statement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the one thing that I think that we agree on, and why I wanted him on here, is if you can see Ted, so if you're on our Facebook Live, or if you're watching on YouTube or whatever, you'll see that Ted is a very muscular, fit, like he's the kind of guy that would squash my scrawny little melon if he needed to. But I say that because I've watched Ted when he's been much physically bigger than you are right here today, and still sitting here next to you. You're a big athletic guy, and I love it. But that power demonstrated in him physically, I've seen him execute and use inside of his personal life, personal relationships, inside of his business. And this is something that I've spent a lot of time talking about on the show. And so I would love to just share and jump back how we met, how, the evolutions happened, and then we'll jump into some topic along the way and just see kind of where it goes.
Sounds good.
Awesome. So what do the people who are listening, like, what do they need to know about Ted? Like, who are you?
Very family oriented. I can't say the word self-made because I've had a lot of people around me to actually help put me in positions to be able to be self-sufficient. 100% about my son and my family, because that's where I believe the future is in our youth. But again, my son in particular, because I've seen so many people delve away from their kids and push their responsibility off, but that's a whole different other podcast. So I'm just an individual trying to make things wave, trying to find my path, trying to make my wave where I fit in.
Right. That's cool. Yeah. And so you own your own company.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And how long have you been in business for yourself?
For myself, about 3.5 years.
Yeah.
Yes.
How's it going?
It's going great. It's going great. I mean, being able to just pick bits and pieces from everybody that I worked with before, picking their best practices and applying it to myself and making necessary tweaks, I love it.
Yeah. So you and I met, do you remember the first day we met? I remember the first day we met.
Yes. Gentleman named Warwick Stevenson from Australia brought me out to the office in Brookfield. I'm like, Brookfield, Missouri. As we was driving through Brookfield, I'm looking around like, let me lock my doors. But it was interesting sitting there, just coming in, sitting in your office, meeting you for the very first time. Yeah, it was quite interesting.
So let's talk about what we did back then. So we sold we traveled to the most hillbilly towns you could ever possibly go to.
Yes.
And we had the most hillbilly vendors. Like, I say hillbilly.
Right.
These are farm and home stores.
Yes.
They measure you on the size of your boots, your belt buckle, and your cowboy hat.
There you go.
Every single one of them. Have you ever owned a cowboy hat?
No. Not even cowboy boots.
Not even boots. All right. So, and what we did in those days is we would go into these farm and home stores and we would sell a $500 product to 60-plus-year-old conservatives. That was our demographic, old couples.
Yes, sir.
And they acted like they were buying crack off the back of the trailer. They would come out to the trailer, they grab a sales guy while the sales guy's sitting up in there trying to do like a hand-to-hand, you know, like, hey, I'll pay you cash if you give me one right here. Give me a little bit of a discount. And these guys are back there taking $400 or $500 cash from somebody, hand them a heater off the back of the trailer. And it was crazy.
It was.
But had Warwick explained to you what you were getting yourself into? Or did he just tell you, man, I'm making a bunch of money? I can't even do it in Australia.
Right.
What's the Australian accent? Warwick, if you hear this, I'm sorry, I just butchered the Australian accent. Hey, mate.
Right, there you go. There you go.
Hit it with a mic.
Right. Skew him on the Barbie. But, yeah, it was, he gave me a brief synopsis, didn't really get into detail, but he said it was pretty much a lot of backwood. I'm not going to say what they said, but it's a bunch of backwood people that probably wouldn't be too liking to my kind.
Your kind.
Yes.
This is an audio show.
Yes. Okay, you're right. So African-American people.
Right.
So.
And interestingly enough, I had a business partner.
Yes.
At the time. Ron. And so the way this played out, you did come to my office first. Mm-hmm. And we met.
Yes.
And then we went into Ron's office. I don't know if you recall.
Vaguely.
Yeah. So you, Warwick, and I go into Ron's office, and then Warwick kind of exited out, and we finished interviewing. Here's the thing: I had never met Ted prior to that day, but you rolled in, suited up.
Yes.
You were dressed to impress.
Yes.
Which probably hurt the case more than helped it.
Most likely. Right.
Because Ron was belt buckle and cowboy boot Wrangler. Yes. Man, I have never understood how some of these farmers squeeze into the Wranglers.
Yes.
Anyway. So you interviewed, and it's interesting. We offered you a job right on the spot.
More so with your influence, but yes.
Well,
yes.
So here's what the conversation, I don't know that I've ever shared this with you, but you kind of brought it up there a little bit.
Right.
When you left, Ron said, I don't know if he's going to be able to sell a heater, and he could be the very best salesperson in the world, but we're in some really racist backwoods. Like, we never know what we're going to run into.
Exactly.
Did you ever experience that in the field?
One time.
One time out of hundreds.
Hundreds of runs. One time. And
one time, one person?
One time, one person. It was a customer. And it was just, when he came in, I spoke to him. He looked, just grunted. Okay, I didn't think twice about it.
Sure.
Me being me, because I carry myself to where I'm not going to put myself and say, oh, he doesn't like me because I'm black. Maybe he had a bad day.
Right.
When I went to the bathroom in the back, because this is where they typically are, in the back of the stores, I walked past them, and I turned my shoulder to look over, just looking behind me. He's waving his hand like he smelled something. And I turned around and looked. And then he just hurried up and started looking at something else again. And I walked past again. I'm going back further to the bathroom and look back again. He's still looking like with his lip turned up. Okay, go back to my business.
Right. But that is the one time.
Only time. You
know what's interesting is my response, and I was actually, because my business partner was an old white guy, right? And I'm looking at him and not knowing where he is progressively or where his mind's at or whatever. And when you left, it was a great conversation. And he didn't say anything other than a concern for that experience you had the one time out of thousands of customers.
Yes.
And I also think that it's important, and this is going to dovetail. So I'm glad we went here because, so if you don't know this, The podcast isn't scripted. I don't script it whenever I jump on here and go. We didn't script where we're going. We had a general, hey, we want to talk about power and executing that power. But this is going to dovetail right into what we were talking about last week.
Yes.
And what's cool about this is last week we were having a conversation and we were like, this is what the podcast needs to be.
Right.
And let's schedule up and just do it. And so the thing that I loved about you and that has continuously drawn me to you as a human being is you've been through some shit in your life.
Yes.
And it's not my story to tell.
Right.
And not my place to tell it. But I am just going to say that if anybody that I've ever met in my entire life stands in front of me and says that they weren't given a fair shake.
Right.
They didn't have the right opportunities.
Right.
I'm just going to give them your phone number and say, tell that bullshit story to this guy.
Facts. Big facts.
Because you stepped into my organization and dominated.
Yes, sir.
You guys absolutely, you were top 3, top 1, 2, almost every single week.
Yes, sir.
Without exception, no matter where we sent you.
Yep.
And so we rewarded that by sending you to the very best locations that we could.
Exactly. And it happened to be those best locations were typically the ones that was thought to be the most controversial races.
Right.
But
yeah.
when it made it happen, because I remember Mark used to do the routes, he would be kind of concerned about my safety, not about me selling, about my safety and going to these locations. But it's all how you carry yourself.
And we're talking about this, like we went to the South.
Yes,
in some
Tupelo, Mississippi, Tullahoma, what was that? Can't remember where Tullahoma was.
Alabama.
Yeah. Louisville, Alabama. I mean, some of these places that you would think like, don't go there.
Right.
Yeah.
But, and this is, so what I love about this is you didn't operate in fear. You executed, you knew the plan and you just did it. And I've watched you carry that mentality to every element as I've watched you grow.
Yes, sir.
Because our business evolved and we got to a point where we didn't have the sales crews anymore. So we had to shake hands after one of the winter seasons. And then you from there went.
After I did that, I went back to the gym industry, became a district manager with 24 Hour Fitness, and then back to it was Aspen Athletic Club.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And then evolved into another industry that you have called home.
Yeah, merchant services.
Gotcha.
Went there for 4 years, 3.5, 4 years, just to learn the ins and outs of the industry. What makes it work, what ticks, what's the downfalls, so I can actually grasp that and start writing my own paychecks, making myself rich. Because if not, what's gonna happen is I'm gonna be living out somebody else's dreams and be a part of their dream. Is that wrong? No, but yet still that wasn't my lane, that wasn't my place.
Right.
So I want to take every bit of knowledge that I've got and still have my connections so I can reach back to mentors, not just because you're on the podcast, that would use as a sounding board, bounce ideas off of.
Right.
And knowing who you were would give me that unsolicited, uncut, whether I liked it or not, feedback.
Right.
Which what I've experienced with me being a strong male, I would call it not even physically strong, but an alpha male, I'll call it that. People would tend to, especially my superiors, would tend to shy away from giving me feedback.
You started to say strong black male. I watched you were going, but and so I would just encourage you on the podcast, no filter. Don't do that.
Fair enough.
Just say whatever's on your mind because there's somebody that needs to hear this.
Yes.
And we're going to go, I want you to be empowered. So let's get to it. You're alpha male. Love that. Strong guy.
Black male.
Yeah.
Like you said, period.
Yeah.
And typically my superiors, the people that I had to answer to, point of contacts, was white. And they were, not for lack of better words, I felt as if they were, I don't want to say intimidated because I don't want to come off as cocky or brazen.
No, but it's okay.
But
you are intimidating. Your confidence is intimidating.
Yes.
Forget, put a sheet over you, right?
Right.
And over the manager, somebody with your level of confidence and directness translates into something that is super intimidating to most people, and that's intensity.
True.
So you come off as a very intense person.
Yes.
Whenever you are laser focused.
100% correct.
Yeah. So that coupled with your physicality.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know, what are you, 230?
I wish. Right now I'm 207.
Okay. So, but where were you when we met? You were
30.
You were 2. Yeah.
Yes.
You were a lot.
Yes.
Like you had 20 more pounds and 6%, 7% body fat. Like
Correct.
hardly nothing. And
Right.
so it's just like, I don't know how this guy fit into this
Right.
sports coat, but
Right.
if I piss him off, I'm afraid he's going to Hulk out and it's going to shred at my feet.
Right.
But so you're saying you felt like they were, you're an alpha male, you're intense,
Right.
you're powerful, physically,
Right.
emotionally, and you walk into an environment and
The people that were supposed to mentor me would not give me the honest feedback that, again, not just because you're on this podcast, but that you would give me that direct, honest feedback. Like, that's cool, but look at this.
Right.
This is what you're not doing. And I never had that throughout my whole corporate American career.
right,
And I appreciate that because, again, like you said, I could go into these locations and we're dealing with, like you said, 67, 70-year-old conservatives that I would just literally, they would probably tuck their coats and grab their purses when they saw me coming in the parking lot, to being able to, how do I tone myself down to be more approachable so people wouldn't be intimidated to even talk or buy from me.
right.
So that was a lesson that I've learned, and it's constantly evolved over the years. Because again, because of my demeanor, my stature, my size, my attitude, and my passion about things. If I'm passionate about something, especially when it comes to sales, and I believe in it, you're not going to tell me anything I'm going to give you all the benefits of why you should,
Right.
and
right,
then let you make that decision. But at the same time, I can have all the wealth of information, but if you don't want to talk to me, if I'm scaring you, it does you no good.
right.
So how do I, big me, become more of a kitten per se?
Right.
So that's what I've had to learn over the years. And again, experience, people that are not afraid to coach me and be mentors to me, shape and help that out. So that's why I took it from there.
Yeah. So whenever I was training salespeople, right, and I still do this, the first thing that somebody has to do is product knowledge and scripting. Like, I don't know how many times, and for me, I had a room full of 100 guys
Right.
and girls that I needed to do it my way.
Right.
And every single one of them, for the most part, tried to, in some way, shape, fashion, form,
Right.
alter the most basic element. Because if you figure out, okay, this is exactly how I take my product or service to market, and that's the same every single time, you don't, it's removing a variable. So some of the wealthiest guys in the world have the same outfit. You open their closet and it's the exact same thing, like Zuckerberg.
Yep.
Everybody hates him right now, but I don't hate him. I don't know him, but I
Right.
don't like him a lot.
Right.
But he's the same T-shirt and blue jeans and sneakers and repeated.
Right.
And Bezos is the same way. Jeff Bezos is, so he also does that. It's also something else that Bill Gates is known for. Warren Buffett is another guy. But anyway, I use these guys as examples. And in the sales process, this is like 101. 101 is I taught a script. And so if I said, hey, I want you to do a presentation, we're going to do it in front of the class.
Right.
You're in a room full of 100 people who know exactly what you're supposed to say and not supposed to say. It's nerve-wracking, but I find out if you've done it 1,000 times or if you're out there fucking it up trying to do your own way.
Exactly.
And so I had no problem giving somebody feedback on that, because if what they couldn't get through their heads is if they would learn the script and know exactly what to say, then it frees their mind
Yes.
to focus on the people around them, the clients. And that was something you had to be able to do.
Yes, sir.
You had to read those micro cues so you could disarm and build trust.
Yep.
You had a
Exactly.
bigger uphill battle than most.
Exactly.
Because man, I could go into some stories. But what I love about your story, and we skimmed right past it, is when that, and my, like, I'll touch on this. My sales guys made $100,000 easy in like 4 months. If they did what I told them to do. They could have taken the rest of the year off.
Right.
I know you went and worked at the gym and hustled inside of that framework.
Right.
And then you just kind of let people know, hey, when heater season comes back, I'm out.
Yeah.
But when that ship sailed and the opportunity was gone, how did you hear about the merchant services business?
I was in the gym industry, and funny that Facebook nobody likes, but
Yeah.
that piqued my interest because I saw a young lady post herself next to a car. She said a company car. It was a Chrysler 300. So
Nice car.
flashing diamonds and yada yada. So that drew me to that. So I reached out to her, and she got me into contact with who happened to be somebody I know from the gym.
Oh, cool.
Got me into that door, and I took it from there. And then what intrigued me about that was it wasn't a salary job. First, it was a salary job at $36,000 a year.
Sure.
Ooh.
Yeah, right.
But again, I'm not complaining because it helped pay the bills and get my foot in the door to fund me to be able to learn the industry.
My father-in-law calls that reading the book. I want to read somebody's book.
Yes.
And so he's lots of times said, have you went and visited with that guy and read his book?
Right.
And what he's asking me is, did I go in and figure out what the secret sauce is to the cake that they're baking?
Exactly.
And that's what you did.
Exactly.
So I love this because this is something that's super repeatable. And so many people, like literally the number of people who come into an environment and they say, like, they're victims. They're victims. How many young black men
Yes.
have you visited with? And look, I could say the same thing. This is not a race conversation.
Not even a little bit.
Because every single person who justifies I'm not there because needs a fucking mirror.
Yes.
Like you don't get to finish that sentence.
Right.
I'm gonna give you a mirror.
Right.
Because the only reason you didn't accomplish that one thing there is because of you.
Exactly.
And so what the practical rubber meets the road here is, how old were you when you made that reach?
I'll be 50 in a couple of months. Yes.
Quit lying.
Yes, 50 in February.
You're not. Are you lying?
Seriously. February, yes, the 22nd.
That
yes.
really pissed me off. Are you serious?
Very.
Dude, I thought you were 10 years younger than that.
50.
You're going to be 50.
Yes.
Holy crap.
Yes. So
I don't have old guys on my podcast. Hey, thanks so much, guys. Savvy. No, wow.
So I was 43 when I changed to merchant services. People say that you don't change your career that far in the game or that old. You're going to be scrambling, and no, because I have belief in me.
Yeah.
I know what I'm capable of doing, and I will always bet on me because I refuse to let my family down. First of all, I asked my wife, I asked her father if I could marry her. Can I take her hand? I know how he took care of her. This is part of my why. I knew how he took care of her. She's spoiled. She's very spoiled.
I know she's spoiled now, but she's been that way her whole life. Is that what you're saying?
Her whole life. So in order for me to be able to...
Now this woman, let me speak on this for a second. This woman's a queen. So you go back and reference the episode Protect the Queen. This woman is a queen, and her king will rip your head off if you look cross-eyed at his queen. But the thing about this particular queen is he doesn't have to do that because she'll rip your head off.
Yes.
She's an alpha queen. Like
Yes,
this, like she's a powerful woman.
Yes.
And so just the fact that you're the king of that kingdom speaks volumes to your power. Cause I've watched like, and how, like, let's talk about her stature for a second. How tall is she?
4'11".
And approximate, like,
96 pounds.
yeah, don't tell me.
Yes.
Yeah. So let's give her a bump there. She's around 100 pounds.
There you go.
Yeah, and under 5 feet. And like, I would not go at her.
Right.
There would be I would be like, whatever you want, Miss Natalie.
Yes. Yes.
So you got a powerful lady, and you're speaking to the fact that who's maybe the men in her life have been required to,
Right.
or have chose to elevate her so that she doesn't have to fight the same struggle.
Exactly.
Okay.
So
now,
that's why I did do everything that I can to make sure that I can provide for her, but taking a couple steps back. The main reason why I have the determination and drive that I do have is because I did not have a father growing up or a dad growing up.
Right.
My mother was my mom and dad.
yeah.
So growing up with 3 sisters and my mom and the youngest son, for one, I couldn't be.
You
soft.
were the youngest and the only boy.
The only one.
Yeah.
So I had to be that guy, and I refused to. I saw how we were raised. My mom didn't give us everything we wanted, but we had everything that we needed.
Okay, so let's just a couple of things here because I want to let's paint the picture because you're going there. So single mother.
Yes.
This is the crux. Like,
there you go.
So I've heard. Now look, we've talked about this.
Yes.
I believe that the degradation of our youth is because of the absence of the fathers.
Yes.
Like you and I
100%.
agree on that.
100%.
Okay. So, but it's not an excuse. Is
all.
what your story says.
Exactly.
And where were you raised?
Kansas City, Missouri.
Okay, like in a
Inner
cute little
city.
suburb,
No.
like you out in Liberty and in
No.
a paved neighborhood, you got good neighbors and
That would be no. 57th in Lydia, and if anybody's familiar with 57th Street Road Dogs, that's where they drove from, right there, and I was on that corner right when they started. 57th and Lydia, the 57th Street Road Dogs. You're familiar with them. Okay, so
yeah, Bill's back here, eyes looking like golf balls. He's
So-
like taking it in, like what?
my house
All right.
was the greenhouse right there on the corner,
right
right on 57th Street. So
Yeah. So just so I understand, because I'm a slow learner,
Right.
And I want to make sure everybody's picking up. So you lived in the hood,
Very
like
much so.
the real hood,
Yes.
not the like some guys get a card that they're like,
Right.
look, I live in the hood. Well, you had a Lee Summit address.
Right.
There's no hood in Lee Summit. You might have
Exactly.
lived in you lived in the part of town where
Yeah.
it's literally ride or die. Like that meant something.
Yes. I mean, and then when I was growing up, it was more so the guy sideways across the street had Tony and 3 brothers. He was a pimp. So then I had, obviously on 56th Street, drugs going up and down the street. So
Right.
that was my environment.
Right.
That people say you're a product of your environment. I beg to differ. I see that. Did I succumb to it? Yes, I did.
Right.
But then again, I made that choice and decision later on in life. That wasn't for me.
Right.
And that's not going to get me anywhere but another conversation where I've been before.
Right.
And if I decide to continue to take that road. But so, yes, again, that's probably another podcast.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
No,
yeah.
I totally agree. Like, look, I've talked to Ted about being a co-host on the podcast because there's so many dynamic,
Yes.
perspectives to everything, and we get caught up. So, like, I'm gonna go way off the deep end here. So when we talk about, and you've hit some nuggets that we've bounced over here. If you wanted a framework, if you wanted to know how to build wealth, you got a guy here who at 43 years old was at ground zero. And when I say ground zero, like he had the ability to go to the gym environment, which he had been in.
Yes.
Eyes open, looking around, what opportunities are here and executing to your fullest in those opportunities. Also recognizing that there's some scalability issues inside of the gym industry.
Thank you.
So we've got that, which to me would turn me away from seeking wealth creation in the gym industry.
Very correct.
So then he says, "Well, all right, unemployed, lost my gig inside of selling the heaters, which has been providing comfortable lifestyle for 5 years or so, right?
Very much so.
Yeah. And now I got to find something." So he takes a job, and he said for only $36,000 a year.
Correct.
Like, look, when you've been making $100K in 3 or 4 months, only 36 is you just went poverty.
Very true.
and so like, but here's the thing, like in that environment, a couple things. Some people would say, get a job in that environment, get paid commission, jump up to 6 figures. I'm sure that was the conversation at the interview. We can get you to 6 figures. It's going to take 12 to 18 months.
Right.
You're going to have to hustle and work hard. You're going to introduce us to business owners. You brought your boss. I met him.
Right.
Came and sat in my office. We converted our processing over.
Correct.
Like, so the hustle has always been there and you were chasing carrot. But what he was doing, and this is, if you're at home and you're broke as fuck and you're thinking, how am I going to pay my bills? Like, why do these guys get the nice cars? Why do these guys live in the big houses? Why? That victim mentality, get that shit out of here. We don't want to hear it. Because what you did is you went into an environment and read their book.
Yes, sir.
And whenever the time was right, you wrote your own version of that manuscript.
That's exactly correct.
How much money did you have to have in the bank to start your business?
I mean, 100% correct. None.
No, so somebody could get, now you had the barrier to entry here is big because you paid 4 or 5 years of your life.
Right.
So we're talking you're 46, 47 years old, man.
Right.
Not getting younger.
Right.
But you've got a young family.
Exactly.
How old's your boy?
He is just turned 11.
11 years old. So but then he's 7, 8 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're looking at wifey saying, listen, Queen, I'm going to start from nothing.
Mm-hmm.
This over here, and I just know some of the story. So
Yes, sir.
The mountain we're on, I see some tremors. I think it could crumble.
Right.
But I'm not going to be a victim of riding the wave till it hits the rocks.
Exactly.
So talk through what was that conversation like? Because I want the women who listen to the Bulletproof Mafia to know maybe the right and proper way to respond. Because I have a feeling I know what this sounded like. But what did it sound like when you went to Natalie and said, hey, I'm burning the boats. Like I'm going for it. And if I'm wrong, just tell me what it was.
So yes, you are somewhat wrong, but you were right, because in the very beginning, take it back to when I left corporate America, I was working at Freight Quote I could have stayed there for that was $40,000 a year plus commissions. Mm-hmm. I was using that as a gapper to work with y'all.
Right.
And living well.
Yep.
So I was secured 401k, the whole nine, to walk away to, I want to be able to control and be able to write my own paycheck. How hard I work, it's what I'm going to get rewarded on the pay for living well. Mm-hmm. Did I know living well is going to be around for a long time? No. But the conversation I had with the wife was, I believe this is going to actually take us to where we want to be. It's going to make us more comfortable. And the relationship that we have, she doesn't question me. And I take that not that, oh, she knows better not to question me, because you know my wife.
Yeah.
She will question whatever and everything.
Whatever she wants, right.
But she trusts me in the fact that I'm not going to let them down.
Right.
100%. So I've told you this before. Any move that I've made, she's been quiet. Mm-hmm. Said, if you think this is right, you go right ahead.
Yeah, she hasn't been quiet, but she hasn't been destructive.
There you go. Or distracting.
That's
the most important, is distracting.
Oh, boy.
Because, again, she could be like, well, are you sure? And then, yeah. And then well, how's it looking? Or are you sure this is going to happen? How are we going to pay this? How is this going to get done, taken care of? Because, again, like you said, I went from 3 times from my age 43 to now that I've had to literally start over from zero. Mm-hmm. And when I say zero, that means I'm literally check to check to make sure everything's getting taken care of, taken out of my mouth, and what I want to make sure that they're taken care of. They don't have to skip a beat on their lifestyle.
Right.
But she trusted. She never knew a lot of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I never let her see that.
And that's the thing. So that I'm similarly blessed inside of it, but it's blessed isn't always the right word, because this is an earned trust.
Very much so. Very much.
We say, like, I remember early in my marriage, it was an interesting conversation. And the reason that it was so interesting was because I hadn't earned the trust.
Right.
And you know who my wife did trust, same as your wife. Who'd your wife trust until you earned the trust?
Dad.
Her dad.
Exactly.
Same with mine. And what's funny, whenever the switch clicked, and whenever my wife evolved to a point of, I recognize that you have authority and power, and she became a catalyst instead of an anchor.
Yes.
Night and day.
Night and day.
I'm talking about, I was 25 years old, $300K in debt, no assets. Right. Everything was depreciating. Like, I was bankruptcy bound.
Right.
And at 28, so we're talking, it was literally 30 months of my life.
Right.
At 28, I clocked my first 7-figure net worth moment.
There you go.
30 months for a $1.3 million swing.
Right.
And I know you've experienced similar swings. Yes. As an entrepreneur, but now inside of that was a lot of, I sat down with Joy, the same as you're talking about right now. I said, hey, look, I see what the girls are eating, but why what's with the hot dogs and mac and cheese for us?
Right.
You know, and that was, we sat down and said, okay, look, building the dream is more important than our short-term comfortability.
Exactly.
And you had the same conversation because you're sitting here saying, hey, there were sacrifices on the front side. I know, just because, again, I know your sacrifice. So let's talk about it. Like from a power standpoint, because I just can't stress enough. Oh, all right, here. I'm looking around for which camera's got it's not easy. The easiest thing you can do is go get a job and fit your lifestyle inside of your income. Like that is literally the easiest thing. And you're miserable. Very few people who are listening to this think, I love what I do every single day. Very few people who are listening to this are executing at your most optimal spot. You're spending 3 or 4 hours a day on social media. You're not putting out. You're not sacrificing. You're in home in time to have your beer, your bourbon, or whatever your perfect mix is, watching the same show, doing the same routine, living a mediocre existence because that's the easiest. But when you say, I have a family, I have a queen, I have children, and I'm not going to fail them.
Yeah.
You just do whatever it takes to succeed.
Exactly.
And so if I were going to recreate the steps, now there's so much more meat to this than what I'm going to be able to touch. But if I'm at 0, I start hunting for a job.
Correct.
That interests me and also has a big upside.
There you go.
Because if they're paying a salesperson a high commission, it probably means that they're high revenue.
There you go.
Read their book, learn to do what they do, be a good employee, be a good soldier.
Yes.
Before I start thinking about being a general.
Exactly.
And what's interesting is, could they have done something different that would have kept you?
No.
There would have been a time.
No.
Because you knew you were meant for more.
Yes. Than fueling somebody else's dream.
Boom.
That's it.
I love it.
It's the facts.
That power, that decision, and this is why I wanted to kind of go down this rabbit hole. I wanted there to be like practical, like rubber to the road.
Right.
If we were gonna give somebody a pathway to success, my story inside of, if I took out the element of the route that I chose to go, right? If the part of my story from 25 to 28 wasn't the same, if my evolution up into that business even further and into my mid 30s when we got completely out of the heater business, we had several companies rolling. If none of that had happened, in my early 20s, I went to work at a new car store.
Right.
They taught me the value of scripting. They taught me the values of overcoming objections.
Yes.
Of recognizing that people want your product and service. They just don't want it sold to them.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, 100%.
And so all of those things were like I knew the car business. I had read the book.
Right.
And so 2 decades later, when I'm like, man, I want to start a new company. I wonder what industry. Well, I know how to sell cars and I think I could make that work.
Right.
I had the framework. When you said, hey, I'm in merchant services, you knew the framework.
Right.
But it was because we were good soldiers first.
Exactly. Knew how to follow before we tried to lead.
Yeah. So what's like, if you had something that you were going to say to this person who's not living the version that they want, who feels like, man, the world's kicked me, shoved me down. Like I like, what would you say to somebody, and what would that feel like? And like red dots where the camera is, but like what's the one thing that you would say to somebody kind of on the back of this conversation?
Right. Stop questioning and worrying about what could go wrong and focus on everything that you know that you can do that's going to make things right. People worry about concerning themselves with, well, this might go wrong. This might go wrong. How about put all that energy into, I know I can make this part work and I know this is going to go right. That's it. That's literally it. Stop worrying about the negative and start thinking about the positive. Easier said than done. It's a mindset shift. It's just like working out. It's constant reps over and over again, realizing, hey, I am everything. I'm capable of doing anything that I put my mind to if I actually just take that first step, and that first step of massive action.
Massive
Period.
action.
Massive action. Not just regular action, massive action.
And massive action in your story was? The latest chapter of your story.
Getting off my ass, and well, I can't even say getting off my ass because I've never been the type to just sit around and wait for anything. It was just go get up, go out and go get it.
For
I'm
yourself,
not afraid.
not
for
for
myself.
somebody else.
Exactly. I'm going to make myself, as I make myself rich and make myself more formidable, that in itself is going to be able to help me create wealth with other people. And not just for me to have if I fall back on bad times, I can go reach out to those people, because building those bridges to help them come up so they can see and achieve their dreams. But first and foremost, they have to believe in themselves.
Right.
You got to believe you can do it before you can even attempt to do it yourself.
Right. So there is, in Think and Grow Rich, one of the principles in there is if you can conceive it with your mind, you can create it in this life. And that's, I think that's the hardest thing. One of the least flexed muscles is vision.
Yeah.
Like we get stuck in this pathway of this is the thing that we do. This is how we operate. This is the hand we've been dealt.
Yes.
But it's horseshit.
Very much so.
I mean, look, it's as simple as somebody says, well, I get a job at McDonald's. McDonald's is the only place that hires me. Well, McDonald's as a restaurant is one of the best built, efficient machines in the world. You're telling me you couldn't go to work at McDonald's and learn what you need to understand to create a restaurant of your own? You couldn't sacrifice 4, 5, 6 years of your life, live below your means, put 10% of your earnings into a savings, and begin the process. And now we got McDonald's in the U.S. right now paying $21 an hour. Shit,
Right.
That's more than you took. You need to take that?
Well, that's from out here, but go ahead.
So you got this space where you're making $21 an hour. Like, you can live for less than that. That's
Right.
$42K a year. You start at less than that at merchant services, credit card
Exactly.
processing. And so inside of that space, somebody could literally put away and open their own little taco stand. They could rent a food truck.
Exactly.
There's no element and there's no industry. And so the thing that I would say to you is, and I've talked about this lots of times, when you add value to the marketplace. So Ted's company allows my customers to seamlessly transact with us in the needs that they have as it pertains to their automobiles. And in exchange for giving me a platform that allows my customers to transact with us using their cards or digital checks or whatever the case may be, it then adds value to them. They don't have to go to the bank. They don't have to do this. They don't have to do that. Like, it's right now. And that value pays him.
Yes.
And so what he did was he found an area that when he added value to the marketplace repaid him. And he said, man, if I make a few cents here, how many times could I duplicate that success? What level of work would it take? How many times would I have to duplicate that success to live a life of freedom? And then he got, like he said, he got off his ass and went and executed on that. Not that you were on your physical ass.
Right.
But you said, I'm going to disconnect from the machine of building somebody else's dream.
Yes.
And I'm going to duplicate this value proposition in the marketplace again and again and again and again and again.
Exactly.
And then, like he was talking about, time under tension, reps. That time under tension is, look, being an entrepreneur is freaking stressful. You literally want to rip some people's throats out. Like, customers can be Karens.
Yes.
That's the going, or Carls or whatever.
Right.
But inside of that, there are so many, like the massive mountain of really wonderful people that we get to help. And so what's that thing you enjoy? What's that thing that you can do? And how do you duplicate that value proposition? And then it's just like, it's such a simple formula. You know how to if you can get somebody to pay you one time and you can make a profit on that one transaction, the only secret to building the machine is figuring out a way to tell the world that you do that transaction for profit and then duplicating the shit out of it. And then it just becomes a process of duplicating yourself.
Exactly.
So how many yous are out there running around right now?
Right now it's close to being me. About 3.
There are 3 people out.
Yes.
So 3 years ago, you were out there grinding,
Exactly.
hustling, beating it down. And then you said, I need to add somebody.
Correct.
I need to add somebody else. These 2 are doing okay, and I've got them trained up. Let's add somebody else. Are you going to stop with 3?
No, I'm not.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I love it.
And it's something to take back to what you said about the sales industry when you was out there at Brookfield teaching everybody? I call it being disciplined to that process, because there's a process, like you said,
right?
That to sell and to acquire business, you take that same process, don't deviate from that process when you're building your own business, just replicating that over and over and over again. Because again, that process is there for a reason. It's tried and true. How you was doing that sales technique, you tried it, it was true, and it created you a wealth.
Right.
Why deviate from that? Why try to make it my own?
Boom. No, it's so good. It's
Yes.
so good. Because look, we didn't create that scripting.
Exactly.
Because it didn't work.
Mm-hmm.
We had objections to overcome, and we learned what those were, and we re-architected the scripting to I call M&M close people.
Yes.
You know the end of 8 Mile, whenever Eminem's like, I am poor white trash. I do live in a trailer with my mom. My buddy Cheddar is an Uncle Tom.
Right.
Cheddar Bob did shoot himself, or whatever, like that last line.
Right.
He just Eminem closed the shit out of Papa Doc.
Exactly.
He's
100%.
like, these are all the things that I know that you're going to object to on the front side. Tell them something that they don't know about me.
Take away that power.
Right. And so we had done that in this scripting. We do that in every business I own that has sales consultants that deal with retail customers, and the same for you.
Yes, sir.
You teach your people, look, I'm not telling you to do it this certain way because I want you to be uncomfortable.
Right.
But that little bit of discomfort that you learn to overcome will result in copious amounts of revenue.
Exactly. Stick to the script.
I love it.
Yes, sir.
And that is one of the keys to how we operate in power, how we build that wealth.
Yes, sir. How
we scale our companies. Like I just think that there's a lot. We literally, I don't know how long we've been going, hot minute here. But I love the conversation. I'd love to have you back.
Oh yeah. We set too many teasers out there.
Man, a couple.
Yes, a few.
Yeah. The thing is, when we're talking about power, we're not talking about physicality and strength. I mean, when you like I suggest you jump over onto YouTube, you search up Michael Munsterman, you'll find my channel. We'll have this video up. Look at the interactions here. When you watch Ted as he communicates, Ted's physicality says, look, I'm a humble man, but there's so much power inside of that humble nature that it commands a respect and an authority. But that's something that you can duplicate. You can literally walk into an environment, be humble, learn, be open to being a good follower, learn their processes, learn their scripts. Don't try to reinvent the wheel. Just take what you've been taught and take notes. My grandpa used to call it walking with your eyes open, because you walk into an environment and you're not there to steal their intellectual property or steal their business model or you're in there to, like, that's your university. I didn't go to college. Did you go to college?
No, sir.
I didn't go to college. So two guys sitting here running our own thing. We could take any amount of time off we want and go do whatever we want to do. Is that
That's
fair
very
statement?
much so. Yes.
Right. I know you're, well, yeah, I'm not going to, there's
Teasers.
another teaser. Not go down the rabbit hole. But it's because at some point in our career, we walked with our eyes open. We learned a system. We learned how to be good followers. And then we graduated to being a leader. And the only person we led in the beginning of both of our journeys were ourselves.
Yes, sir. 100%.
I mean, in that heater business, whenever I went out on my own, I had a job making over $100,000 a year as a conductor on the railroad.
Yes, sir.
Everyone told me I was nuts. I worked in my living room during the day, creating the ads, sending the ads to newspapers. Monday to,
Yes,
right?
yeah.
Newspapers it's like this white ruffled up stack of papers for all you have don't know what a newspaper is anymore. Those anyway.
Yeah.
I'll quit clowning. But man, I just can't tell you, you never look back at that journey and regret it. And as I sit here and I look at Ted, a guy who walked into my office and said, look, I'm going to sell my ass off for you. Give me a chance. I'm so thankful that I did, because it's not just that he was successful in selling heaters and made money, which he did, but it was, we were able to build a really beautiful friendship. We don't, I say this because I think that in this cancel culture we live in right now, that there's a lot of people who believe you have to agree on absolutely everything to be good friends.
It's not perfect.
We had a disagreement this morning.
Yeah.
Before we got on here. We were not always in sync.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you the thing that I would take one of these relationships over 1,000 fake ass yes men any day of my life. And so I hope that you glean something from this. In the comments, hit any questions. Ted and I will both respond to anything you've got, but be sure to like the podcast, share it. If you got anything from this, tell a friend about it, and check out some of the other episodes. There's a lot of good stuff in there, and we're really trying to foster a mentality of entrepreneurship, not so that you can chase the gold bars, but so that you can live that life that you deserve, that life of adding value to the world with unapologetically, no excuses, no bullshit. Anybody can do it. Like, I think our next podcast should be maybe something like cracks in the foundation, or something that talks about, like, we go deep on upbringing.
Yes, I agree.
Because I think that one of the biggest stories that people run in their head is they believe that their circumstance defines them.
Would they?
Yeah. So we'll schedule it up as soon as we hang up. All right.
Yes.
Look, operate in power. Look for opportunity. If you email me, it's michael@michaelmunsterman.com. You send me an email. Tell me what you do for a living and tell me why you're broke and why you can't get out of the cycle. And I will tell you why you're a liar. But anybody who does that, I'll jump on a call with you and we can genuinely talk about your circumstance. And if I can't come up with a solution, you'll be third person on the podcast. We'll get you on here, and the three of us will chat through the stories that are holding you back from just freeing up who you are and what your potential is. Savvy?
Built tougher than your average, ultimate hustler. I'm the total package, bulletproof. I know you see me in your scope. I'm the captain of the ship, you just a sailor with a boat. Bulletproof.